And welcome back to our second video on how to make these dice animate. So obviously so far in the first video we looked at creating our basic dice, and that's fine. We're not going to mess around too much with the settings for the principal BSDF at the moment because we haven't got enough light or anything else around to see how it would affect, because excuse me, we need light to be able to understand the way it reflects and interacts with other materials. What we are going to do, however, is start to get some other materials, other geometry in the scene. So first off, I'm going to create a plane. Now this plane, I'm going to put underneath here. It doesn't matter hugely where it is because we're moving our dice shortly. Nice and big. So that is our big plane. This is where the dice are going to fall onto. Mine's a bit excessively big at the moment, but you can always make it smaller once you know where this dice is actually going to end up. I'm going to move the dice out of the way. So, if you can't click on the plane, which sometimes you'll find you're right-clicking everywhere and it won't let you until you're right close to the edge. If you look up here, it's got the names of everything you put in. We've got our camera, our cube, our lamp and our plane. So obviously we want the plane. We're going to do new and a principal BSDF again. And we're just going to pick green. I'm going to delete the light one here as well, because we're not going to use this light. It's rendered. And you see it's quite grey. The reason it's this grey is because of the world settings to start with. And also it's cutting off, it's quite a way away over there. To change the basics of the colour of the scene, you'll see that these first, well, 4 of these at the start are in all the time, and one of them is world. I'm going to change this to a brighter colour, like a blue, and you'll see that actually it's reflecting, sorry, all the objects are reflecting this light, so it's actually lighting the scene, and it makes you realise whether things are too shiny or not shiny enough. Like our plane, for instance, I don't want this to be a shiny material, so I'm going to put some roughness on. And you'll notice it's not reflecting so much anymore. It will still be reflecting a bit when the dice is closer, but it's not reflecting generally. So that's the first thing. Secondly, now that we've got this in, we're going to have a look at how to animate your dice. And the basics of this are reasonably simple, but we'll get started on it. If we go to physics, which is the one here, and we add the dice as active, and if we go to the plane and we add it as passive, now when I press play you'll see the dice falls to the ground. Now it's not the best way of animating it, but it's a good start to actually get some physics in. And obviously if you rotate it on the Z, X and Y axis, you'll have a different fall, because when it hits the point, it'll move around a bit. So that is the start off point of getting your dice moving. But to really get it moving, like I had in mind, you need to actually animate it before the physics take place. And this is where the animation tricks come in. So, first things first, we need to go to the physics part of your dice. So make sure your dice are selected. Click right at the end, this is the physics settings. This has got lots and lots of settings for force fields, cloth, water, you're going to be using at some point as well. It's got smoke, all sorts of things like that. And a lot of these settings we don't need to worry too much about. I'm going to put the bounciness up to 1, and I'm going to start with it animated. So if I tick animated, I'm going to right click on it and insert keyframe. Now what this means is that right at the start, the computer knows that it's animated, and it's going to stay animated. So I'm going to move up to 40, I'm going to right click and insert a keyframe again. And then at 60, I'm going to get rid of the keyframe. So I get rid of the animated tick and insert a keyframe. So what's going to happen to start with, if I press play, it's not moving, and it's only moving then because it's taking all of its movement from this animation bit at the start. To be honest, actually, we don't even need a little bit of a mistake there. I'm going to remove this keyframe, delete keyframe, and just have it here. So I've got one keyframe at the start with animated ticked, and one keyframe here with animated not ticked. And as soon as it hits that one, it will start moving. So, with that in mind, I'm going to do the other part of the animation, which is the automated part based on, sorry, the preset part that we'll do. So if I go to animations, and I'm going to insert a keyframe. Now this is a general keyframe for lots of things, not just the animation or the animated physics. And I'm going to go location and rotation. The scaling shouldn't change, so we go location, rotation. Now what this has done is it's set another keyframe here. You can't see it because the yellow line is already there. But it's told Blender that this cube is at this location and this amount of rotation on 0 frame. Now I'm going to go forward to 60. I'm going to move it this way a bit. Let's rotate it. Okay, and now I'm going to insert another keyframe with location and rotation. What will happen is I'm just going to take it to the first 40 frames only. Is if I press play, you'll see the dice is just moving the bit I've told it to between those two positions. Now I only did it to frame 40 because at frame 41 we've told it to untick the animated box, which means this stuff that we've put in up to here isn't actually going to have any effect because the physics is taking over. I press play now, it will move, and then physics will take over, and you see it's falling to the ground. What that means is that our keyframe here, it didn't go far enough away, so it's not actually fast enough. So I'm going to move it further away, and I'm going to insert the keyframe again. And now we see it move, physics lets go, and there we go. Our dice rolls away as if it's been thrown. Now the thing with physics is you need to have a little play around with it and try and get it to work the best you can, especially if you're animating it first. Let's have a look at it coming at us. There we go. Let's see, this is where it, if you check where it ends, then you can move your camera to a position where the dice is actually coming at your camera. And there we go, that's the dice. And if we were to put this in material mode, things should be roughly the right colour. You see the dice coming at you there. Perfect. Now, to get a second dice doing exactly the same sort of thing, you need to just duplicate this first dice. Similar way to how we were duplicating the stickers on the Rubik's Cube before. We go Tools and Duplicate, or just Shift and D. And I'm just going to move it along slightly. And what I am going to have to do is change the rotation a bit. Because otherwise it's going to do exactly the same thing. And also, these animation things, you see what I've done? Where I've moved the animation, it's moved it to exactly the same point because it shares animation data. So all that rotation stuff I just did is pointless because I didn't save it, and the computer's taking the same data as the other one. So let's move it over here, rotate it, rotate it, rotate it, and this time go to animation and insert location rotation. Now if I move, you'll see it's at the same point. It's also aiming for the same point the other one was, which could be an issue, but we'll have a little look, see if it hits. So obviously if they aim at the same area, they may hit, but if it hits the ground first, it could be different, but let's have a look. There you go, so the dice hit each other on the way down, so it's changed it slightly. Let's affect that then. So instead of just doing the first one, we're going to do the second one as well. Let's move it to a different place, and so you've got to move to the area in the timeline first, move it to a different place, and then insert location rotation. And now it should move to a different place. Let's see. Yeah, this dice has gone a lot further. That's not a problem. And from here on, it's just playing around with different settings to get it moving as you want it to. Once you've got all of these sorted and your camera's in the right place and you're happy, you'll probably want to have a look at a render. Now, if I just take one scene of the render image, now this is going to load our rendered image, going to get everything that's on there, but actually, well, it's kind of too blue because there's not enough white light in there so you can see all the actual colours of everything that's going on. That's the first thing we need to sort out. I'm going to make plain with some lights, or add some light. Nice and big. This might be excessively big, we'll have a look in a minute. And emission 20. Okay, that's going to be a bit one-sided, this light, but let's render the image now. Now at least the white is starting to come out in the dice, but the ground is still pretty blue. So let's have a look to see what we can do. First off, I'm going to make the background a bit whiter. And I'm going to set the plane to be completely rough, so it shouldn't reflect very much, and actually get rid of this specular nice and low. So now it should be a bit greener. Now, you may be wondering why this isn't coming up, but I've just noticed one setting that accidentally clicked. If you're having a look and things aren't showing up, and you think there's no way they can't be showing up, that probably means that they're not actually being rendered. So what it's done is rendering. Now, to check how to render things, you see up here, you've got all these settings. Now, the first one is, do you see it in this view? That's what that eyeball means. This one affects whether you can select it or not in viewport, and this last one affects whether it renders or not. So the reason that wasn't showing up is because it was not on the render settings. So let's have another look. Here we go. So we've got nice green, we've got the light coming from the side, fantastic. So that should be everything we need to do apart from render the final animation. Now, to render the final animation, do a few settings. I'm going to leave it at 50% so it doesn't take too long, it'll be too large. I need to choose an output. So I click on that little box, and you'll probably find your X folder. I've just got a Blender folder here, and accept. And this is the folder that's going to save the file. Next things you need to do are sort out the actual settings. Now, underneath here, it says PNG. We don't want, if you've got a really large animation that's going to take a long time, do it by PNG, which splits it into lots of pictures to put together. We don't want to do that. We are going to pick AVI. No, actually, let's do FFmpeg video. These are all different file formats that we can pick. And then if we go to encoding, we don't want Matroska. We're going to go for MP4. And what this do is, when I press animation now, it's going to go 140. These bits show how much it actually renders and animated. So I'm going to do 1 to 140 and click on animation. And what you'll see is it's going to go frame by frame. It's going to render this first frame. When it's finished that one, it'll do the second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one, etc. until you've got a file that looks like this one here. So this will take a while, so I'm not going to sit here and watch it do it with you, but that is how you do an animation. That's how you do the dice animation themselves. Okay, so best of luck with that. Any questions, make sure you ask.